I mean, I watch listings all the time. Oh, they dropped $5,000, which, I mean, in some markets is a lot of money. But here, you got to make it something that people can grasp onto to say, oh, wow, that's a good price. It's set now. I think this is a good price point.
What's going to move the needle? What is going to, if I'm sitting on my couch, what is going to make me say, oh, wait a second, right, I need to call my agent, or wait a second, I need to be at this house? How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Shawn and Matt Show. My name is Matt, that is Shawn, and welcome to our show. Shawn, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about an increasing number of lawsuits by buyers and sellers against real estate agents and how that's impacting the market and real estate agents. We're going to be talking about the fatal pricing mistake that sellers are making in the spring market. I say spring market, it's January 5th. Every single year, it's like, when is the spring market? I'll tell you what, a house just came on in North Arlington. By the way, Greenbrier Street. A lot of houses coming on the market on Greenbrier Street. We're seeing one on Saturday. I go on showing time. It's already, you got to pick and choose when you're showing the place because it's tough to see.
Is it the one like right across the street? Is it 1402?
No, we want to see that one, but that one doesn't go on the market until next week.
Yeah.
This one is off of Illinois Street near Langston Boulevard. But in addition, we're also going to be getting into in or out, whether Shawn Battle is in or out on 3 properties across the nation. One of them is an Earthship. Do you know what an Earthship is?
Never heard of it.
Well, we will get into the Earthship. Cool. Let's start with an article from Business Insider. Shawn, an increasing number of lawsuits are being filed against real estate agents as home prices continue to fall. Yeah. Let me set the stage. Zach Vollmer, Senior Vice President of Real Estate at Victor Insurance Managers, has stated that between 2021 and 2022, lawsuits rose 9% for buyers and sellers that had sued real estate agents and real estate brokerages. Vollmer said that lawsuits targeting real estate professionals are common when home prices fall. Oftentimes, they are filed by sellers who have waited too long to list their homes or buyers who may have overlooked a minor issue during the inspection process and now live in a home with a value below what they bought it for. So, Shawn, what are your thoughts on emotional, obviously these are buyers and sellers. It's a very emotional process. And if you have a bad taste in your mouth and you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, you are going to be pointing the finger at someone. So, Shawn, what are your thoughts on buyers and sellers increasing number of lawsuits against real estate agents?
I mean, it totally makes sense, right? We just came out of the hottest market that we've ever seen. And so our suggestion as real estate agents is, hey, if you want this property, you have to go after it. And how do you go after it? You waive all your contingencies. You might skip the home inspection entirely. We always say, hey, we should try to get in there to do a home inspection prior to writing the offer so that you can waive that home inspection and therefore not have a contingency in there. But a lot of people were probably like, the house looks fine. We ran through it. I didn't see anything major. And then all of a sudden you get the house, you probably overpaid for it. Now you're finding the things that are wrong with the house, which happens every time. It happens to me. I mean, it happens. You're always going to find something. But they get a bad taste in their mouth. They start thinking back and they're like, wow, our real estate agent was telling us that we had to do this, this, and this in order to get this. And we followed his, and now we have this house and now it's falling in. It's their fault. It's their fault. No, it's not. It's your own fault. If you did the contract, you wrote the contract, you took the advice. That was the advice that was given to all of us during that hot market. If you want the house, this is what you should be doing to get it. If you're not comfortable with waiving a home inspection, let's try to get in there early to do the inspection. This is always your choice. We're going to show you how to do it, but it's your choice in the end. And so to come back at a real estate agent later to say, oh, well, you missed this, or we found this later and this is kind of your fault. I mean, there are different ways that real estate agents react, right? Or there's different types of real estate agents. Some are just out there, they're just churning deals, and they're just, there's others that are looking out for your interests always. And there's always going to be some sort of misrepresentation, in our industry. There just is, unfortunately. Some people might hide things. Listing agents might hide things that they know. You're not supposed to, but it could come up, and that's what could create lawsuits as well.
So I think sellers hide things all the time, right? But where's the line where it's like this is legal and this is illegal? Like if it's rain, maybe there's water that pools on the outdoor patio. Like is that a crime if they don't say that? Or if it rains, there's water that floods into the basement. But Virginia is a buyer beware state, so the disclosures are very straightforward. If there is a material defect with the property, then you have to disclose that. But if something has happened 6 months ago, then maybe there is that gray area where you don't have to disclose that.
Yeah, maybe it was like the biggest rain everywhere and we got a little bit of water in our basement. I mean, are we disclosing this? Is this a major issue or is it not? And that's the gray line of a lot of disclosure laws. I can see the lawsuits coming out based on missing items or not doing a home inspection. You're finding all this stuff and then you've got to put thousands of dollars into it. And yeah, naturally, that's a scary proposition, right? Now, the second thing would be buyers unhappy about their values dropping because they're dropping in a lot of areas. And I'm not saying everywhere, but a lot of these areas are dropping. Now we get to the seller side of things. And this is where, we as real estate agents, we don't have a crystal ball in telling us what the real estate market's going to do. We have indicators. We can watch the market. We can say, well, we feel like it's pulling back. We can watch economists and see what they're saying. There's a lot of ways to figure it out. And we had forewarning that this market was starting to turn down. We could feel it personally. But again, we live in a different area and our market is still pretty strong with very low inventory. But when sellers say, I want to list my property, and you just miss that window, you just miss it. And it's unfortunate because it happens to a lot of people. What they do is they still price it where they thought it would be priced, a month ago. And unfortunately, a month is a long time in real estate and the prices have dropped. And so has the demand. And now you're chasing the market down and you thought you were going to get 1.5 and now you're getting 3.5. It's like, what the heck happened? You told me it was worth 1.5. You told me, Well, it was at one point, but we missed the market. And a lot of people just follow that market down,
You had mentioned, sales prices dropping. Lawrence Yun, chief economist at National Association of Realtors, said that he could see that half the country could possibly see declines in sales prices of 10%. Analysts at Moody's were more optimistic, reading from the article, saying home prices could fall between 3 and 8% by the end of the year. And then getting back into the lawsuits, in most cases, Vollmer said that the lawsuits contain allegations that seek to trigger reimbursements under a real estate professional's insurance liability policy. So the BPOL, like the insurance policy for when a real estate agent or brokerage makes mistakes. So some of those claims include non-disclosure, meaning an agent or broker withheld material information from their client, or negligence and misrepresentation during the transaction. So listing agents, this could be, hey, they had another offer that was higher, but it was never, shown to the seller. And then, buyer's agent, this could be the listing agent told the buyer's agent something to convey to the buyer themselves, maybe about a basement, an attic, a roof, a parking situation, and that information was never conveyed to that buyer.
Yeah, these things are always going to come up. And now they said that they're increasing in this past year, which is unfortunate, but it's part of what we go through. We have insurances. Every contract we have to pay an insurance company for, errors and omissions and things like that. So thankfully we're covered for this kind of thing because, when you're busy and you're doing a lot of transactions, your mind's all over the place. There are some things that can be missed, but, when you're professional and you have your systems in place and everything's good, you should be good. There are a lot of agents out there that are new, right? We've been doing this 20 years. There's agents that have been in the industry 1 or 2 years. So they're not going to have the knowledge, the know-how in these markets. And when they change to the down market or to the up market, a lot of them have only seen an up market. They don't know any different. They don't know how to change. So real estate is a huge learning curve. People think that they can just jump right in and start doing it. But what happens when you misrepresent something? What happens when you misrepresent your clients? This is a big, scary thing that a lot of people don't take into account, and you have to. This is a profession that has to be learned, and you have to educate yourself all the time, or else you will find yourself in this sort of situation.
A lot of things can go wrong in the real estate transaction, and your agent or the other agent misrepresenting is not a crazy thought. It's not extremely unlikely. It could happen by malice or mistake, and the number of lawsuits are expected to rise in 2023, as Volmer says. All right, let's move on to the next topic. This comes to us from Realtor.com. The fatal pricing mistake that sellers are making right now. Shawn, so this article, which came out today, Thursday, January 5th, is talking about what you have mentioned earlier in terms of, hey, the seller wants this price. They didn't get it the first weekend. Now they're chasing it. They don't want to adjust the price. And then finally, they drop it to where the agent said it should have been all along. And then, surprise, surprise, they get a ton of offers. So obviously, when a realtor posts in a Facebook group, in a brokerage Facebook group, on a text thread, hey guys, gals, my listing is just not moving. What's wrong with the listing? What does everyone say? Everyone always says price. Shawn, that's the easy answer, and oftentimes it is, right? But in addition to price, at what point are you having conversations with sellers where you're like, hey, we could drop this thing $50,000 and there's not a buyer out there, or hey, we could drop this thing $50,000, but as long as your walls are red or your countertops are this, we're not going to get much traction. Do you know what I'm saying?
At the very beginning, I walk in and I say, listen, you have to do things to this property or else it's going to sit, or else you have to price it way down here. That's number one. But what was the other question?
Well, it was the juxtaposition, if you will, of at what point do you drop the price and something's going to happen, or at what point do you drop the price and no matter what you do to drop the price, there are external factors. It could be some sort of renovation updates needed, or market conditions where you drop the price the day before Christmas.
Sometimes I say that, actually I say this a lot. If the buyers aren't there, you could drop the price out of the sky and there's really not going to be much action.
How do you know the buyers aren't there?
You can watch, like you just said, right? I went to go and make an appointment the other day on a listing, and there were barely any spots left. That's telling you that there's a lot of buyers out there, or the inventory is very low. So what is your strategy at this point? Well, if you price it right, you're going to get a lot of showings. We know this now because Matt just tried to do it, and it's a single family, probably right around $1 million, right? So we know that market's probably pretty good. So why would you try to overprice at this point? Put it in that price point where you're going to get all these buyers in and possibly push that price up. Even though it's a seller's market, the key is right now, inventory is low. It's very low in our area. And so the next best thing that comes on the market is going to get a lot of attention. So we know that by just watching the few listings that do come up.
For the next single-family house listing in North Arlington that you're going to bring on the market, how are you evaluating the comparable properties? The article says, look at multiple data sources for pricing consideration. Obviously, you're going to maybe draw the little circle, little square, little parallelogram, if you will. Say, oh, this one sold 6 months ago for 1 point whatever. But it's not really an exact science because a lot of things have happened since 6 months ago. So how do you go about comping out these detached houses when so much has changed, maybe since the neighboring house has sold?
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, I'm not saying it's an easy process because especially here in Arlington, we don't have cookie cutter neighborhoods. These aren't neighborhoods that everything is exactly the same. You go into North Arlington and you can have a huge house next to a small house, next to a Cape Cod, next to a colonial. It doesn't matter. There are so many different factors that influence the price anyways. I do it a few different ways. First, I take comps from a few months ago and I'll take, all right, what has the market done since? Maybe come down on the price on a percentage basis. The other thing is I'm going for comps that sold recently, and maybe I'll say, all right, well, maybe this is a little bit out of the parameter, but let's see what a similar house has done in that neighborhood, right? And then maybe, all right, well, it's come down $20K since the last sale. Compare it to this neighborhood and say, all right, maybe let's make that same adjustment. That's another way. A third way I always do is run it through multiple algorithms just to see where that is going. So, there are sites out there that you can get an idea of value. Redfin will give you a value. Zillow will give you a value. And then on top of that, we have our own things that we pay for that'll give us algorithmic values based on recent sales and trends. And I take all of that data and I analyze it and I present it and I say, this is what this is saying. I think you should be here. And what we're going to do is watch the market for the next month or two until you come on the market to see what is going to happen. And I set my clients up for a search in that neighborhood so that anything pops up, we're there, we're watching it, we're seeing it, and that way we're staying on top of that neighborhood and we're able to price it right when it does come time.
Another note that the article says to consider is to consider a plan B before you execute on plan A. And so what they're saying is, hey, sometimes this agent says, hey, sometimes I write into the contract, if we don't get a number of showings by a certain point, we drop the price. If it doesn't sell after 30 days, we drop the price. Now, to me, this has always seemed like loser mentality. It's like, oh, well, I think we're going to know this thing's not going to sell in 60 days, so we drop it then. And there recently was the Commanders football head coach, Ron Rivera, who did not know his team could get eliminated from the playoffs after a recent game because he was only thinking about winning. He kind of puffed up his chest and he was like, we could get eliminated. He kind of only thought that the team was going to win, so he hadn't even, or at least claimed to not even consider the fact what would happen if they lost. Now, to me, if you're a real estate agent, 30 days, 60 days go by and you're like, oh, it hasn't sold? It hadn't even occurred to me that the house wouldn't sell. If you get to that point, that is a gross misrepresentation of all your roles and responsibilities as a real estate agent. There should definitely be a plan B in place, but I'm not entirely sold on putting that up front in the listing agreement. Shawn, do you, in your listing agreements, sure, you may talk about it, but in writing, do you say after 30 days, drop this price, after 60 days, drop that price?
No, I've never actually done that. Never. But I always suggest to people, listen, if we're not getting the traction that we think that we're going to get within the first 3 weeks, then we need to consider coming down. Because we do not want to languish on the market. Once you sit on the market longer, you're worsening your chances of getting close to that listing price. So if we entice them, and I'm not saying like come down $3,000. I mean, you got to make it significant for people to actually care, right? I mean, I watch listings all the time. Oh, they dropped $5,000, which, I mean, in some markets is a lot of money. But here, you got to make it something that people can grasp onto to say, oh, wow, that's a good price. It's set now. I think this is a good price point.
What's going to move the needle? What is going to, if I'm sitting on my couch, what is going to make me say, oh, wait a second. Right. I need to call my agent, or wait a second, I need to be at this house.
And then multiple people will, and it really depends on the price points. It depends on how long the market it's been on the market, and it depends on the market itself, on how much you drop. But a significant price point or a price drop is at minimum $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. I think in a lot of instances. I'm not talking about $500,000 condos or $400,000 condos. We're talking $1 million property. I mean, and $1 million, 10 grand doesn't seem like much, right? So you got to be significant on these price drops when it comes time. And at this point in the market, because we've seen such a difference in prices and a difference in buyer mentality, we don't know where the bottom is. We're kind of still figuring out things. So we have to push a price out there that is based on what I've described earlier. And if the market doesn't react, you have to be pretty quick in reacting to that and saying, okay, well, we need to do an adjustment. And that's why I always say 3 weeks is probably the time frame that you need to get moving.
Well, you've always talked about chasing the market. You don't want to be the person that is dropping $2,500 every 2 weeks. We've all seen those properties out there. It's like, how many price adjustments they have? If they just did this in one fell swoop, it would be much more efficient than like someone rolling their eyes and saying, oh, another $500 price adjustment.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to do it. And here's another thing. If you've had 20 showings in a weekend and you don't have any offers, you need to start thinking, why don't I have any offers after 20 showings? You better get that feedback from all of those people to see where and what went wrong and make that adjustment quickly. You don't want those 20 people to walk away and just not write on it.
Definitely a topic that we will be following throughout the 2023 spring markets, especially as, the first wave of houses are coming on the market since, October, September, maybe?
Yeah, well, and this is another thing I was saying to clients is like, right now, the inventory is so low. So do you wait for the spring market when everybody else is going to wait, or do you want to be the only one on the market? I'd rather be the only one on the market because you're going to get a lot more attention. And as things progress, you're going to see more and more listings come on. Are the buyers going to be there? So those are questions to ask yourself.
Big questions.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to in or out, whether Shawn Battle and myself are in or out on 3 houses across the nation. Shawn, coming to us from Realtor.com, rare Earthship home leads. Oh, man. So they have such good article headlines, and I completely butcher them. Rare Earthship home lands on the market for $1.5 million in the SoCal Hills. Earthship homes, by the way, do you know what an Earthship
No,
home
I've never
is?
heard of this.
Okay, they're usually located in desert spaces of New Mexico, but this one is in Southern California. The listing agent, Mark Hernandez, says this is kind of like an architectural equivalent of farm-to-table cooking. It is a 3,600 square foot home completed in 2002, designed by architect Michael Reynolds, who developed the Earthship style, Shawn. So
Pretty cool.
essentially think solar panels, think skylights. It has 10 skylights in the house. The internal climate is regulated by passive solar heating through the skylights. It's a net zero property, which essentially means they're giving power back to the grid. Hernandez says that the owners literally get payments from their local utility provider. Shawn, this is a house. It's just kind of outside of LA. It is 1.5 million, 3-bed, 2-bath, 2,600 square feet. Are you in or out on the Earthship house?
I am in on the Earthship house, man. I love it. I love new things, new concepts. And I love no expenses or net zero or getting paid for the energy you're giving back to the grid. This is amazing. And this is the way things should be happening, right? I mean, we should utilize every possibility that we can energy-wise to give back to the grid or to not use the energy if we can. And so, again, skylights, my thing. I love natural light, open spaces. And yeah, I mean, I'm totally in. How about you?
On the notes of the power grid, have you seen these stories about people having targeted attacks against power grids? There was one in the state of California, the state of Washington. I think individuals were planning like a robbery, and so they tried to like disable the power grid. Yeah, something like that. Are you concerned at all in the future about bad actors going after the power grid and our livelihood of how we put electricity into our houses?
Absolutely. I mean, this is one of the biggest concerns of the United States right now. Our power grid is not secure enough. There are bad actors all around the world that are trying to come after our power grid, because if they can get through that, then you're screwed.
You don't even need to like shoot at it with a gun. How about hack at it from across the world? I mean, I've been on Dominion's website. It's not my favorite website in the world, but are we confident that these utility providers have the most insane IT security out there?
No, I don't know. So. You know how I know that? Go to a state website.
Yeah.
Just go to a state website, any state website, and you're going to be like, man, how old and archaic is this stupid site? Can you please update it? That's the same thing with these utility companies. I'm sure, I'm not positive, but I would think they're probably out of date and they need to start doing something now. And I think that this is the way that houses should be run in the future. We should rely on our natural light and everything else that we can, the land, to heat and cool our house as much as possible, so that we don't have to rely on a big grid that somebody could hack into and kill stop it.
I think I might be a little overly concerned about power grid hacks, but I think a lot of people are under concerned about power grid hacks.
I think you should always be overly concerned about everything.
It's a little tinfoil hat-esque, but I'm starting to think about it before I go to sleep.
Yeah, but we have just learned so much in the past 2 years. We never thought we were going to go through what we just went through. And so you need to have some sort of thought that, what if something does happen like this? Are we ready? And we're really not. And so I think we need to start thinking about that as a country, as individuals, as real estate agents. How do we better ourselves? How do we better our energy intake and not rely on the big sector to provide it to us?
I love it. Shawn Battle for Speaker of the House. How about it?
I'm ready. I'll go in and I'll do it.
Before we go down the rabbit hole of conspiracies, let me finish up the Earthship home. The tenets of Earthship home combine repurposing and recycling with the harvest of natural and renewable resources. The home is also earth sheltered. The house has 3 walls that are built into the earth. North and east walls are embedded in the soil all the way up to the ceilings and roof lines, while the west-facing wall is about halfway covered in soil. I'm so in on this. Everything about this, I'm so in.
And you can see why they build these in the desert, because there's no moisture, so they're building it into the wall. They're not going to get the moisture. But still, It's just such a cool thing. I love it. I'm in.
All right, next house is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Shawn.
Oh, really?
This is 617 Center Ave in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, listed for $385,000. This is known as the Heidelberg, one of Frederick Sauer's most significant stone structures. It's actually a 3-story apartment building that takes advantage of the hilly terrain. So there's 3 different apartments, 3 different levels. Every apartment has its entrance on the ground level. So it's built into the hill. It's a multifamily building. It almost looks like something out of a fairy tale. I mean, look at the stonework and the design and the aesthetics of a place like this. It's a 3-unit building for $385,000. So maybe more of an investment rather than a primary purchase. However, if you are looking to house hack or do something similar, how about buying something for under $400,000 and then have 2 other tenants paying your rent? So Shawn, are you in or out on the Heidelberg in Pittsburgh for $385,000?
I am 100% in.
He's in.
And not just because it's Pittsburgh, all right? This is a really cool property. There are so many features in here just by scrolling through. It looks like this old historic home with these stones as your exterior. And that's also pulled into the interior with stone archways. Look at that. That is amazing. Can you map this for me?
Yeah, I'll map it.
But like you just said, this is the key to investment and creating a future for yourself. If you can afford to purchase this property and rent out, and you don't care about renting out the other 2 units, and you can live in one and rent the other 2 and basically live rent-free or pretty close to it, that is the way to be. If you can do that early enough in your lifespan to start investing early, it will pay off.
You heard of Aspen? Well, this is Aspen Wall.
Aspen Wall.
You know Aspen Wall?
Yeah, I don't exactly know where it is. I mean, like, there's so many towns like this in Pittsburgh. Aspen.
Let's see, near Sharp, just northeast of maybe the Strip District, if you will. So on the outskirts of Pittsburgh. Dude, I'm in too. You're telling me I can get this for $385,000. I would, man, I'd probably Airbnb it. That's what I'd probably do.
Yeah.
Maybe you could, do some long-term and then some mid-term and then some short-term.
Honestly, I'd love to do the numbers on this just to see where it is. I mean, $385,000 is expensive for the area, but you're right next to Fox Chapel. Fox Chapel is a very expensive area.
$385,000 sounds expensive.
It sounds expensive.
It sounds expensive. Well, I don't want to take the wind out of your sails completely. It is under contract. Maybe if someone, does the inspection, maybe they back out of it. They can sue the real estate agent.
Well,
no, just
look.
kidding.
I mean, even in this market, right? They're saying that the market's down. Pittsburgh is maybe one of those areas that's down 27 days on Zillow. And does that 27 days include the time that it's been under contract? I don't know, but still, 27 days in Pittsburgh. At 385, that's pretty darn
This
good.
thing flew off the market. 260 saves and 4,000 views.
4,000 views. Yeah, that's an amazing property. I would definitely have bought that.
All right, let's move on to our last property, Shawn. This is not in our world. This is in the metaverse. A rat-inhabited one-bedroom New York City apartment for sale in the metaverse comes to us from Local Today. So it's been a while since we've talked about the metaverse.
I kind of forgot about the metaverse.
Most people did, and those that invested in it wanted to forget about the metaverse.
Hey, all of our investments are down. It's not just the metaverse. I mean, it's everything. But
so when we've talked about the metaverse before, we've talked about, you can create a crazy luxury house. This is going in the other direction. So imagine you're trying to make it in New York City, but you have to start in Queens, or you have to go in Brooklyn, right? I'm kind of pooping on those places, but like this isn't Ryan Serhant's New York City. This is like bare bones, pizza boxes on the ground, dominoes on the ground, wine stains, just a ugly, disgusting apartment, Shawn. It is being sold for $528,000. Contact Stephanie Turk at Farkakte Apartments. Do you know what Farkakte means? No. It is Yiddish for encapsulated in excrement. That is what Farkakte.
Was that like a joke inside the thing? Like,
I don't know.
So there are real estate agents inside the metaverse that actually sell properties inside, that are not technically real properties, but that's funny. Now you create the ugliest thing you can to try to sell it because it's unique and maybe somebody will buy it. I have never bought something in the metaverse, and I think the air has been let out a little bit on the metaverse, and I don't want a rat infested, even though it is just electronically created. I'm not buying it.
It's artwork. So one man, one woman's trash is another man and woman's prize and gold. So I think I'm out on the 2-bedroom 1-bath in Dragon City. I'm out on almost everything metaverse. Now maybe this comes back and is gonna triple in value, but I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't see it either. And the metaverse is gone.
It's so crazy because the first metaverse house, I was like, house on Mars, $500,000. Yes, what a deal! This is amazing. But this is like so weird. Like, this is how the economy collapses. People selling $500,000 rat-infested properties in the metaverse.
Yeah,
that's how it happens.
Well, and that's it. It used to be cool, but the thing is, they're still asking $500,000 in the metaverse. I don't know. That's a very high price for something that doesn't exist. And I know that these properties have sold, and there was some really cool features and cool things that were going on in different metaverses, let's say. But yeah, it's fizzled for me, and I'm totally out. There's no way I'm doing it.
Someone commented saying this is the most 2022 thing ever.
So 2022, we're going to say that a lot in the next couple of years. About a lot of different things in the real estate market. That was so 2022.
Well, would love to know your thoughts and comments. Be sure to drop us a comment below. Hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you haven't already. And favorite us and listen on your favorite podcast player for Shawn and myself. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Take care.